What do you get when you slap reincarnation, a borderline incomprehensible plot, an OP protagonist, and two magic systems that are actually the same magic system, but not quite the same because they're a little bit different, but effectively they're still the same? You get Standard of Reincarnation, a webcomic written by Blue Jang Yi and illustrated by Lee Sang-kyung, and based on the original web novel by Kim Pyung-byum. Definitely not getting those names right. A story of a young man named Davin, the world's most dedicated Guts cosplayer, born without luck, love, or a right arm, and his struggles against a world run by a royal line determined to do him wrong. If you like a story with a needlessly complex magic system, and that is magic system singular, and we'll get to why that is in a little bit, and a plot that develops faster than a problematic relationship in a dark fantasy romance novel, then you're in the right place. Some people are going to claim this isn't an isekai, and those people would be wrong. I'd explain why, but it'd spoil the big twist, and that takes place fairly early on, actually, in the story. If you're interested, then go and read the first few chapters, then come back to me and let me know if you agree with me in the comments. But enough preamble. Let's slip into this complex web of mystery wrapped in a power fantasy and find out what makes it so damn interesting. This story is set in a world of magic and swordsmanship, a world with gods capable of bestowing powerful blessings. The most powerful people and most beloved people in this world are martial artists. Now that doesn't mean, like they're going to, jiu-jitsu tournaments or whatever. They're martial soldiers, people who use both their bodies and their innate powers with magic to safeguard the world and also to just do some really cool swordsman stuff. Effectively, the people most loved by the people of this world are those who use both their skill with a blade and their mana to protect the world and the greater good. And the particular country that this is set in is ruled by the Samian royal family. Think like salmon, but Ian. As previously mentioned, Davin, or Davin, but I prefer Davin, is our MC. He's our main character, and oh boy does he have a rough start. Born into a branch family of the Samian royal line on the same day as the main line welcomes their heir, Kajin, he probably would have been overlooked in the best case scenario. However, Kajin was born with literal God-given strength and talent, his body and birth blessed by the sword god Keshik, whoever the fuck Kashik is. Meanwhile, Davin was born with no blessings, no innate strength, and most importantly, no right arm. With the already unfair expectations of his mother and father, who expected him to be born and drag them from obscurity by clapping the mainline heir's proverbial cheeks, entirely dashed, they effectively give up on him. But not regular give up on him. No, they treat him with utter disdain. The first words we see spoken to Davin and the opening of the webcomic are his father looming over his crib saying, "A disgusting thing has been born." And that sets the tone for how Davin will live the rest of his life. Kajin remains leaps and bounds ahead of him without even having to try, ever. With everything being handed to him and his power coming to him without effort, he abuses that power. And his cousin. Davin's parents sell him to the main family line as Kajin's vassal, and one of the first things Kajin does is tie his cousin to a tree and whip him bloody while others look on, happy to allow Kajin do as he pleases. And so it goes, for years. Kajin, relying on his innate strength, allows himself to indulge in wine, women, and all manner of debauchery. Meanwhile, Davin, with everything stacked against him, trains relentlessly. Over many years, he builds his strength and challenges Kajin over and over, losing every single time. That is, until after 29 years of failure, he finally lays Kajin low in front of the entire kingdom. Now, at last, he can move on with his life. A life that's been devoted to proving his family wrong for having abandoned him. A life spent growing and learning in the pursuit of besting his cousin and showing the world that despite everything stacked against him, he was still as entitled to live as anyone else. And as he walks away from Kajin, ready to start the next chapter of his new life, Kajin stays true to his wretched nature and stabs him in the back with the Samian family's blessed blade, a mortal wound that only one person would be capable of healing. Davin's one piece of solace as the darkness begins to fill his vision is that at least he died with honor, and that the world has seen Kajin for what he actually is. An evil little piss boy. At least that's what he thinks. Not long afterward, Davin comes to in prison and is informed that the legendary saint who could heal his wound was actually in attendance and did heal him, which means the Samian family had the opportunity to change the narrative. It turns out that according to the Samians, Davin actually sacrificed 300 children to it. It turns out that according to the Samian family, Davin actually sacrificed 300 children to a demon and took its power to beat Kajin, before he intended to take over the entire country and subjugate everyone. It was Kajin's desperate blow that caught Davin off guard and stopped the would-be demon lord in his tracks. They even have the evidence provided by Davin's family of the ritual he performed. After all that, Davin could beat Kajin, but not the Samian family. Manipulating events, planting evidence, and lying to the public, they took everything from Davin, even his honourable death. Now, by their decree, he's cut off from his mana, and the tendons in his arms and legs are severed. He'll never hold a sword again, and he'll spend the rest of his life behind bars deep underground. Really giving him that Griffith treatment, all to help Kajin save face. In fact, yeah, he went from Guts to Griffith in the same chapter. After a while, Kajin comes to his cell to gloat. He lets Davin know he's been crowned the Sword Emperor, and that he's praised as a hard-working genius, and that it's all because of Davin. This fucking guy. After he finishes humiliating Davin, he leaves and has his meals reduced. Slowly, over nearly a decade, he wastes away until finally he passes on. But not to the next life. Not to any place beyond. He passes on to a new body. And not as a baby. No, he's picking things up in medias res at the worst time ever. As a teenager, suddenly awakening, becoming aware of his surroundings, and being flooded with memories, he finds himself being accosted by some old prick who looks vaguely like his father, but blonde. As his mind floods with the memories of this young man he now inhabits, his instincts kick in and he bounces this old fla back against the wall. After he gets all gammony and claims his son will show him what the branch families are capable of, he storms off and leaves Davin to try to piece together his fragmented memories, the memories of a life he didn't live, but is now in control of. Now this is where things get a bit fucky-wucky, so bear with me. Davin now inhabits the body of a young man named Vincent Adenka, another royal family that are actually the royal line of one of Davin's only friends back in his previous life, Arslan. As the memories flood in, we see that Vincent has led a life not too dissimilar to Davin. The seventh son of the main line of the Adenka family, mistreated and bullied by everyone around him, beaten and spat on by his family and most of his servants. Truly another pitiful soul. Though Davin isn't left to sort through these memories on his own. The previous occupant of the body is still there, though they're more a ghost than anything else. Or less a ghost and more now a minor deity. It turns out Vincent wasn't as harmless as those around him believed him to be. He'd been planning to complete a ritual that would imbue him with the power of a spirit king. Again, this comic throws around names and terms like nobody's business. Just take it for what it is and we're going to move on. The main thing is the bargain with this Spirit King would imbue him with insane power that would allow him to get revenge on his family and all those who looked down on him. That, however, looks to have not gone as planned. What happened instead is he has ascended to a minor godhood through a revelation, that's capital R, revelation, so that he can make space in his body for Davin to move in. Except he doesn't know who Davin is, just that he's the spirit that got summoned into his frail body. He also has decided now to go by Julian rather than Vincent. So now Davin is Vincent and Vincent is Julian. But that's not the big reveal. No ma'am. The big reveal is that Davin's been reincarnated into Vincent's body, but not in the same time he died. Oh no. He's been brought back 500 years in the future. And that's why this is an isekai. That's why. If anyone tells you it's not an isekai because he goes forward in time, 500 years is effectively a different fucking world. If I went 500 years into the past, odds are I'd be spending my time looking after my own bit of land and fighting the English. As opposed to now, where I can only dream of having my own bit of land and fighting the English. My point being, it may as well be a different world for how much it would have changed. And change it has. For one thing, the magic system has evolved far beyond what it was 500 years ago. Back then, it was all about being able to channel mana through your body. And the people who were the best at it were those whose bodies were blessed with, effectively, a skeleton that can take in mana. They don't really explain it, but that's what it is. That's actually why Vincent's body is so frail. The magic system's moved beyond that to a system that more involves making pacts with gods and channeling their magic through you rather than absorbing mana into yourself. The best way I can put it to you so you can visualize it is, think of the leveling up system in Skyrim, where they look up into the stars and join them together, all that stuff. I know it's just a level up system, but that's how it's represented visually. And that's all you need to know. So, 500 years ago, a divine blessing like Kajin had it, and some natural talent would put you leaps and bounds ahead of everyone. Nowadays, the playing field is much, much more level. More complex, but also more accessible. Like I said, Gods give you power so you can use their mana. It's a bit difficult, but that's all you really need to know to understand it. The old magic system still exists though. Again, it's the same magic system. In reality, it's one and the same. It's just been extrapolated over time as people gained a deeper understanding of how it worked. That's honestly the most realistic part of the story for me. The fact that over time, progression happens. It's never really touched on in a lot of shows, books, movies, things like that, but 500 years is a long time. And it does a great job of showing that the world has progressed tremendously in 500 years. But now the real meat and potatoes of the story comes in. It's established that because Vincent wasn't using his body as it was made to be used to channel mana, that's why he's so sick, and the damage done is irreparable. Davin is on a fixed timeline. Eventually, Vincent's body is going to fail. So, now that Davin is Vincent decides he's going to take the entire world to task. And without straying too far into spoiler territory, we find out that the story of Davin from 500 years ago has been dramatically altered. Now, Davin was an evil demon king who tried to roll his power across the world. There are dark spirits in the world apparently tied to Davin. So part of his objective is to find a way to unravel this bizarre alternate history that's been written for him, and also to, again, take the mainline family to task as much as he can. And the story that rolls out from here is one of someone who does their best to defy expectations and do better for themselves while also bettering the people around them. It's really fun, it can be heartwarming at times, and the action scenes are pretty fun. The magic system is needlessly complex, but overall I definitely recommend giving it a watch. I haven't gone too much into it just because, in all honesty, read it for yourself. I personally enjoyed the hell out of it while I was reading it, but ultimately I found it super forgettable. I know we're kind of ending the video on a bit of a weird note, but if you enjoyed The Hero Has Returned, if you enjoyed Solo Leveling, you're going to find some enjoyment in this, but it is not nearly as polished as something like Solo Leveling or Hero Has Returned, if those can be said to be, you know, perfectly polished at all. But if you want a fun power fantasy that doesn't require too much investment, give this a look. Just don't expect it to make it to any top 10 lists anytime soon. It's fun, but is it a new standard for Isekai? Personally, I don't think so. But let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you enjoy it. Go and read it and tell me what you think. If you do have any recommendations on something similar to this, but better, let me know, because I definitely enjoy the premise, just not the overall execution. And if you like the video, like the video. It's the only way I know that you care about me. Subscribe if you want to see more, and get in the comments. Let me know what you thought of it. Like I said, I wish I enjoyed it more. Let me know if there's something that is like this, but better, because I love this kind of story. I just didn't really find that this one landed for me. It's, like I said, it's not going to make its way to my top 10 list anytime soon. And let me know in the comments as well if there's any that you'd like me to cover. I've got a couple recommendations from people already that I plan to cover in the near future. But for now, I'm going to call it there and go and play more Baldur's Gate 3. And yeah, there's probably going to be a video coming on that whenever I finish my 9th or 10th playthrough. But with that, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.